A very good morning to my dear students. Today we are going to move on to the second chapter in the supplementary reader entitled The Star. This story is actually written by Arthur Gordon. Here in this story we can find a girl and how she became a star in her life. Now let us have a look at the chapter, The Star. Can a shy, lonely child grow up to become a star performer? So the writer is asking to us a particular question. Can a shy, lonely child ever be able to grow up to be a star performer? So this is actually the question that the writer is putting before us before he is going to start the story. And this question is remaining unanswered throughout the entire story, and when the story came to an end, this question is being answered. So now we can look at the chapter, what is actually going to happen to the girl who was once shy and lonely. Okay, now let us go to the first part. There is a question that you ask the famous when they are obviously on their way to the top, and so I asked it. How did you get started? I said. Who or what provided the necessary push? So the writer here says that whenever a person is successful, whenever a person is achieved something, there is actually an intuition in others' part to find what is the secret behind that. See, for example, if an interview is going on, we are going to interview a famous personality, the first question which we would have been asked to them most probably is, what is the secret behind your successful story, or who actually inspired him to be successful, or can you summarize what is actually the shortcut to success? So most probably these might be the questions that the interviewer is going to ask to the interviewee who was once proved that he is successful. So likewise, when this story also get started, the writer is planning to ask such questions. She gave me a quizzical look. She was not really pretty, but she had a merry sort of face. That, she said, is a stock question. But never mind, I can give you an answer. We will have to go back about 15 years though. That's all right, I said. Do we have time? When the writer asked to the girl who or what provided the necessary push, the girl gave him a quizzical look. What do you mean by quizzical look? Quizzical look means a questioning look. She wasn't really a pretty. She was not really pleasant, but she had a merry sort of face. A merry means a jolly, or what we can say, merry, joyful sort of face. That, she said, is a stock question. So when the girl heard such a question, the girl said that it is a stock question. What do you mean by a stock question? A stock question meaning is provided there, a question that is often asked because it is easy and convenient to ask. So a stock question is actually a most probably a common question that is to be asked by everyone, and at the same time a simple question. So the girl admitted that it is a stock question, and the girl goes on to say that even though it is a stock question, even though it is a simple, most frequently asked question, I can, never mind that, no problem, I can give you an answer. But we will have to go back about 15 years though, because it is a long story. So if you want to know the secret behind that, we will have definitely go back about 15 years though. It is a story unfolded in 15 years or something like that. That's all right, I said. Do we have time? Okay, then the writer said that, yeah, I don't have any problem. Do we have time? We can definitely go and find out what is actually the secret behind your successful story. So, and as we stood there in the chilly dampness, this is what she told me. Chilly dampness actually here mean a type of wetness. We can say that a condition of being covered by a liquid, especially water. So, actually the story is sitting in a very cold place. So, it might be referring to the climate of snow falling or something like that. So, by standing there over in the chilly dampness, yeah, she started to saying about her story. This is what she told me. So, she just started to speak about her story. In those days, she lived in the twilight land between childhood and adolescence. She says that she was living in between childhood and adolescence, and she didn't like it much. She did not like that period very much. She was 8 years old. She was awkward as a newborn colt, and when she looked in the mirror, which was as seldom as possible, all she could see was a pair of enormous eyes and a lot of bands on her teeth. She was shy, she was lonely, she was convinced that she was hideous. Her name was Margaret, but everyone called her Maggie. So, what she said here is, she was 8 years old, she was awkward as a newborn colt. What do you mean by newborn colt? A young male horse. So, she says that she was not an easily managed girl like that of a young male horse. And when she looked in the mirror, which was as seldom as possible, she only looked in the mirror very rarely, and in those times all she could see was a pair of enormous eyes and a lot of bands on her teeth, simply saying that she was not at all looking good in her childhood or adolescent period. She was shy. More than that, she was very shy, then she was very lonely. So, she was convinced that she was hideous. What do you mean by hideous? Yeah, extremely ugly. So, she had a feeling that she was not good and she was extremely ugly. Her name was Margaret, but everyone called her Maggie. So, the girl's name was Margaret, but everyone called her lovingly as Maggie. To make matters worse, she had a sister named Sybil who seemed to be everything she was not. Sybil was 16, blonde and cunningly streamlined. So, what made the matters worse was, this Maggie had a sister whose name was Sybil, and her speciality was she was simply just opposite to what Maggie was. That means she was very beautiful, and she was just opposite to Maggie. Sybil was 16, blonde. Blonde means pale golden color, and cunningly streamlined. That means having been made more simple, straightforward, something like that. So, what you have to note here is that, yeah, Sybil was very smart, Sybil was looking very good, and Sybil was just opposite to what Maggie was. She had decided opinions, and on this particular wintry afternoon, she was voicing one of them loudly. "Oh, mother," she wailed, "do we have to take Maggie? She's only a child, and she can't even skate." So, here the writer is saying that Sybil was actually overruling whom? Overruling Maggie. Sybil was actually taking all those decisions, or we can say that Sybil was actually overruling Maggie. and she had decided many kinds of opinions, and one of those overruling opinion is mentioned here. Yeah, Sybil was actually asking the mother. She wailed. What do you mean by wailed? Wail means to cry out in extreme pain. So she was asking in a loud voice, do we have to take Maggie? She is only a child and she can't even skate. So do we actually you have to take Maggie, because Maggie is a very small child, so she can't even be able to skate. So is it needed to take Maggie out? So in that way we can simply find there is a prejudice, or there is a overruling attitude in Sybil's decisions. The Bancrofts asked her, dear, their mother said, it won't do you any harm to have her along. Then what do you mean by Bancrofts? Bancrofts is actually a community in Contra Costa County, California. It is actually a community. So Bancroft means a community in California. So Bancroft lady means the lady in that community. So the Bancrofts asked her, dear, their mother said, it won't do you any harm to have her along. So will it be a problem for you if you take Maggie along with you? So in that way the mother asked. Sybil brushed by her honey colored hair, but Larry is taking me, it is all arranged. So again and again Sybil is finding other excuses not to carry Maggie out. Yeah, simply Sybil said that, yeah, but Larry is taking me. Larry will come here to take me out. It is all arranged. He can take you both, their mother said in tones that Sybil recognized as final. Heavens, it's only an afternoon skating party. So she said that, yeah, it is all arranged. So we would not be able to carry Maggie along with us, as it is a pre-planned thing. So then the mother intervened and mother said that he can take you both. Larry can take you both. Take you and Maggie. Their mother said in tones that Sybil recognized as final. Heavens, it is only an afternoon skating party. So this was actually only an afternoon skating party. Sybil gave her sister a baleful glance. So what do you mean by baleful? The meaning is provided there. Baleful is actually threatening. So Sybil was not at all satisfied with mother's decision. So suddenly she looked at Maggie in a baleful manner. Baleful, the meaning is provided there, threatening. So as we said right now, Sybil was not at all satisfied with mother's decision. So the only thing she can do is she can threaten her, her younger sister. So Sybil was simply looking at Maggie in a threatening manner. Then Maggie said to Sybil, you needn't worry, said Maggie in a small voice. I will sit in the back seat and not say a word. So suddenly, Maggie find a solution. Maggie just said to Sybil that you don't worry about me. I will simply sit in the back seat without making any noise. So I won't be a disturbance for you, even though you took me out. He came at 3 o'clock. So Larry came at 3 o'clock. Tall, lithe. What do you mean by tall? Tall you all know. And what do you mean by lithe? Lithe is actually graceful. The meaning is provided there. So Larry was actually a tall man. He was a very grace, a man with full of grace, the best athlete in the high school. He was 17, but he seemed older. There was a kind of quiet assurance about him. Assurance also meaning is given there, confidence. So What are the characteristics of Larry? Larry is very tall, then Larry is very graceful, then he was a best athlete in the high school, and even though he was only 17, he seemed very older, not very older, but he seemed somehow older than he is, and there was a kind of quiet assurance, that means he was very much confident. Sybil explained in tragic tones that they would have a passenger. Larry smiled that that's all right. So when they are about to start, Sybil announced that yeah, we would have a passenger. So in that, what do you understand from that? Yeah, in that way we can easily find that Sybil was not at all satisfied with the presence of Maggie along with them. So in that way she simply expressed her dislike. She said that yeah, we would have a passenger. We can say to a great extent that in a not satisfied mood this particular comment is made by. More than that, yeah, in a very dissatisfied mood, yeah, we would have a passenger. Then Larry smiled, that's all right. Then Larry said that, oh, no problem, that is not a problem. They went down the snowy path to the street, Sybil holding Larry's hand, Maggie stumbling along behind like a lost puppy. Sybil opened the rear door for her sister. Larry raised one dark eyebrow but said nothing. While they went down, Sybil was all the time holding the hand of Larry. So in a way, by going through these sentences, we can easily find that every time Sybil was actually ignoring whom? Sybil was actually ignoring Maggie. Maggie stumbling along behind like a lost puppy. So there also Maggie was lonely. If you turn to page number 19 and if you look at that image given in page number 19, you can see that Larry and Sybil were walking together, and we can find Maggie some footsteps away from them, yeah, coming or walking lonely and as if stumbling. What do you mean by stumbling? Stumbling means walking clumsily. Walking clumsily means walking without care or walking without fitness or something like that. So in that way Maggie was simply walking lonely. When Sybil opened the rear door for her sister, Larry raised one dark eyebrow but said nothing. But Larry was not at all satisfied with this kind of behavior from Sybil. They drove to the lake near the Bancroft's house. The lake was a sheet of magnificent black ice under the grey December sky. Already 20 or 30 skaters were swooping and spinning over the polished surface, their cries thin and sweet in the frosty air. So as they went to the skating field, they could see a magnificent black ice. What do you mean by magnificent? Yeah, grand, elegant. So as they went to the skating field, they can find a very grand and elegant skating field, and already 20 or 30 skaters were there. They were swooping. What do you mean by swooping? Yeah, flying or sliding, flying or gliding, and spinning, or what do you mean by spinning? Yeah, revolving around. That means all the skaters who were skating was swooping and spinning over the polished surface, and their cries thin and sweet in the frosty air. As they were skating through the field, they produced some thin cries, that means some thin sound. Yeah, the sound we also produced while we are indulging in sports activities. Yeah, it is only a sign of excitement or a sign of happiness or something like that. So in that way, all these 20, and as they went there, they saw the 20 or 30 skaters were simply skating there and were simply enjoying the skating. Larry laced Sybil's skates for her. So, as they went to the field, Larry helped Sybil to start her skating. At the same time, Larry offered to lace the pair that Maggie had been given for Christmas, but she refused. So, when Larry offered to lace the pair Maggie had given for Christmas, Maggie refused. She refused. She would just watch, and she persisted that she would just watch it. She stood small and alone, feeling her fingers and toes grow numb. So, she was simply standing there alone and feeling her fingers and toes grow numb. Yeah, she was in a numb position. What we can say the meaning of a numb? Yeah, numb means unable to feel. So, she was just standing there as if she was totally unable to feel everything. That means a feeling which we only can understand while we are in loneliness. The skaters circled like bright birds, their runners making rhythmic whirring sound. Watching them, she felt a longing that was almost like physical pain, a longing to be as graceful as they were, as beautiful as free. So, while Maggie was simply staying there, her loneliness got doubled. Yeah, he saw the happy skaters circling like bright birds. So, if you had ever been gone to a skating field, you could have definitely found what is the meaning that the writer actually meant here, like bright birds. So, it is typically about the movement of the skaters. So, their runners making rhythmic and whirring sound. What do you mean by whirring? Whirring is actually moving with a humming voice. So, they are moving like bright birds and they are moving with happiness, happy sounds, happy utterances. So, in that way everyone are very, very happy. So, when Maggie saw this happy people, her loneliness got doubled. Yeah, and she developed a physical pain. A physical pain, yeah, greatly indebted to her mental pain. Mental pain here means the feeling of loneliness. So, a longing to be as graceful as they were, as beautiful as free. So, she wants to be as graceful as these skaters were, and at the same time she wants to be as beautiful and at the same time as free as they were. But suddenly there happened something different. What was a different thing suddenly happened there? Yes, let us have a look at the rest of the portion. Larry must have been watching her. Yeah, Larry was watching the varying feelings of Maggie. Larry must have been watching her, for suddenly he came over. He looked down at her. How about giving it a try? She shook her head, mute and miserable. So, Larry understood that Maggie was actually in a very, very extreme loneliness. When he realized this, he suddenly came to Maggie's side and invited her for a try. Yeah, how about giving it a try? So, in that way Larry invited her to start the skating. She shook her head. So, suddenly she shakes her head, mute and miserable. So, at that time she shook her head and she was mute. That means she was silent and she was miserable. Why not? He persisted. It's fun. I am no good at it. So what? He sounded surprised. She stared at her mittened hands. My father says that anything worth doing is worth doing well. He did not say anything for a moment. Then he knelt, unlaced his skates, slipped on his moccasins. Come on, let us go. She looked up at him, startled. Go, go where? Over there, behind that point of trees. Bring your skates. Oh no, she said, I couldn't. Sybil. Never mind, Sybil. His hand was under her elbow, strong and insistent. Incredibly, she was walking beside him through the silver dusk. So when Larry persisted her to start skating, Maggie said that I am not good at this. So in that way, she refused. And she also added that her father said that if she did something, it should be worth doing well. Otherwise, you shouldn't do that. So when she uttered so, Larry did not say anything for a moment. Then he knelt. Then Larry knelt, unlaced his skates. So he suddenly unlaced his skates and slipped on his moccasins. Moccasin meaning is provided a soft leather shoes. So Larry gave her his skates and asked her to wear the skates instead of the moccasin, the soft leather shoes she wore till then. And Larry asked her to start her skating. She looked up at him, startled. Go where? And in that way, he said that, after wearing this, you please go there, go. Then Maggie asked, go where? Then Larry said that over there, behind that point of trees. Then Maggie said that no, I can't go there because Sybil is there. Then Larry said that never mind Sybil. His hand was under her elbow, strong and insistent. So in that way, Larry was actually holding her. That means Larry was just standing just behind her for giving her all kinds of inspiration, all kinds of support, or all kinds of encouragement. Incredibly, she was walking beside him through the silver dusk. So in that way, he was there to encourage this little girl. Don't you like Sybil? Sure, he said, I like her fine. I like you too. Around the point was a little cow, frozen, secluded, quiet. This will do, he said, put on your skates. But I put on them. I will lace them for you. He laced hers and then his own. He stepped lightly onto the ice and held out his hand. Come on, Maggie. She shook her head, her eyes full of tears. I can't, I am afraid. So, even though Maggie refused to wear the skates and started the skating, Larry continuously motivated her, and finally she agreed to do that. And in that way, Larry along with Maggie just went to the skating field and started skating. At that time, she shook her head, her eyes full of tears. I can't, I am afraid. So even though she admitted to start skating, she was very much afraid. He said gently, I will tell you why you are afraid. You are afraid because you are lonely. I know, because I was lonely once. Afraid to try things, afraid of not doing things well, afraid of being laughed at. But finally I found out something. So Maggie, I clearly knew that why you are afraid. You are afraid because you simply think that you are alone. I can understand you, because once I was also lonely. So When you feel that you are lonely, definitely you can't do anything. Definitely there occur some kind of fear. Okay. She stared up at him, puzzled. Puzzled means difficult to understand, confused. It was so quiet that she could hear her heart beating. Around them, the sentinel pines stood black and motionless. Above the pines, now the first star gleamed. So, she was very much confused. Yeah. She was not sure that these things would be going to done by her. So, around them the sentinel pines stood black and motionless. Sentinel pines, the meaning is given here, trees that look like guards on duty. So, above the pines now the first star gleamed. So, in that way, Maggie tried her first attempt, and among all those well versed skaters, Maggie appeared as the first star gleamed. Gleamed means shined or glittered. It is funny, he said. I couldn't tell this to Sybil. I didn't think I could tell it to anyone, but I can to you. What I found out was very simple. It's that no one is ever really alone. Even when there is no other person around, there still must be someone. Someone who made you and therefore cares what happens to you. Someone who will help you if you do the best you can. So you are never alone. You can't be alone no matter what you do. That is the secret of happiness, of doing things well, of everything. He held out his hand again. Come on, Maggie, he said. So in that way, Larry was there to give Maggie a positive reinforcement or a positive courage. Larry said that your problem is that you feel that you are alone. That is the only problem you are facing. So you have to think that no one is lonely here. If you are lonely here, there will be someone to help you. So in that way, by saying all these things, Larry actually made Maggie somewhat courageous or somewhat confident. In that way, he called her, he held out his hand again. Come on, Maggie, come on, he said. So in that way, Larry encouraged or inspired Maggie. She got to her feet and stood wavering. Wavering means unsteady. But then his right arm was around her waist and his left hand held hers. He said, all right, now just relax. Slide your left foot forward and push with the right. That is it. Now slide the right and push with your left. Fine. Now once more and again and again. Yeah, so in that way, Larry sat very close to Maggie. Larry put his right arm around her waist and his left hand held hers. So in that way, he sat very close to Maggie, and she taught how to move in a skating field. That was a story she told me in 5 minutes or less. Then the lights went out in the big arena. The music blared. Blared means to make a loud sound. The spotlight caught her as she left me standing in the runway and flashed across the ice on glittering skates to meet the members of the troupe who came spilling out of the other runway. The crowd roared as the rink became a whirling kaleidoscope of color and rhythm and movement. The greatest ice show on earth, they called it. I guess it was. So this is actually the story the girl told in 5 minutes or less. The story of mastering a new skill, or the story of how she was overcoming all her difficulties or all her fears, and how finally she would be able to master a new skill. So, here in this paragraph we can find that Maggie was able to move across the skating field as per the guidelines she had received from Larry. So, when she did so, we can find that there was a roaring sound from the crowd. That means the crowd was very much excited to witness her performance. The crowd roared. Roared means the high sound produced, the roaring sound. The crowd roared as a ring. Ring means the surface for roller skating. So, in that way, all the people who assembled there, that means the crowd, produced a roaring sound, and the entire ring means the surface for roller skating, the entire circle or the entire place was became a whirling kaleidoscope of color and rhythm and movement. So, in that way everyone was very much happy to see the great performance by Maggie. I saw her husband standing in the darkness a few yards away, watching as he did every night. I moved up and stood beside him. He gave me a quick smile, but all his attention was out on the ice. "She is wonderful, isn't she?" he said, and it was a statement, not a question. I looked at his face, so eager and proud. A reporter isn't supposed to feel much, but somewhere inside me there was a little unaccustomed glow. "Both of you are, Larry," I said, but he was not even listening. While the skating was going on, the writer says that he can find Larry watching all those things. And the writer says that I moved up and stood beside him. He gave me a quick smile. So, suddenly Larry gave the writer a quick smile, but all his attention was out on the ice. Even though Larry gave the writer a quick smile, the entire attention of Larry was on the ice. And Larry made a comment to the writer that she is wonderful, isn't she? So, in that way, Larry was very proud about her and very proud about her performance. It was a statement, not a question. So, Larry was very much proud about her. I looked at his face, so eager and proud. So, while the writer was standing close to Larry, the writer was looking at Larry's face. He could even see his face, so eager and proud. And now the writer says that a reporter is not supposed to feel much, but somewhere inside me there was a little unaccustomed glow. What do you mean by unaccustomed glow? Unaccustomed means not familiar, and glow, you all know, light from heat. So, we can simply say that in Larry's face one can easily find a very curious, a very proud, a very eager man behind the success of Maggie. So, that here it is meant by unaccustomed glow. Both of you are Larry. Yes. Both of you are Larry, I said, but he was not even listening. The reporter said that, not the girl alone. You also are wonderful. Both of you are Larry, I said, Yes, both of you are wonderful, eager, proud, and inspiring. But he was not even listening to me. He was simply, the entire attention of him was on the, eyes. He was simply, watching Maggie's performance. So, this is the story is all about. So, the story is all about giving motivation or giving inspiration or giving encouragement. If we closely analyze the story, we can find that Maggie was very much afraid for skating. It is only because of the encouragement, it is only because of the inspiration, it is only because of the motivation Maggie had received from Larry actually made her to achieve this. So, we can simply say that the story is all about giving motivation, giving inspiration, and giving encouragement. So, we actually need the help of someone to give motivation, or there should be someone to motivate us, or there should be someone to encourage us, or there should be someone to lift us. So, this is all the story is all about. Okay, thank you and have a nice day.